What if I told you that on a daily basis we interact with a second universe? The universe I'm referring to is a digital one that's currently undergoing an information Big Bang. Over the past 2 years, we have generated 90% of the data in existence in our world. And today, we have 40 zettabytes of data, with each zettabyte equaling a trillion gigabytes. With this unprecedented and exponential rate of growth, data is well on its way to exceeding the number of stars in the physical universe. Keeping this in mind, it only makes sense for this big data being collected to be used in accordance to the common human rules and societal standards we live by. Yet, the unfortunate reality is that in today's world, these standards are often disregarded when it comes to both the collection and the use of this data in artificial intelligence systems. Personally, I first began pondering the role of AI systems and mass data collection after being inspired by my own mother's work in researching the use of data mining and machine learning in improving online education systems. She would always talk about the fascinating ways data could be used to improve education for all and to improve society as a whole. Intrigued, I set upon my own journey of discovering the power of AI through creating my app, Wall Street and Your Street. My app uses data from the stock market as well as renters companies such as Zillow in order to predict the prices of rent with stock market fluctuations, as well as to raise awareness about how economic depressions create housing crises. This exposure to AI confirmed my belief in its vast potential. From facial recognition softwares to voice assistants such as Siri to applications in medicine, artificial intelligence and technology have become inseparable parts of our lives. However, it can have seriously negative effects when we are not conscious of the biases from our society that are reflected in and perpetuated by artificial intelligence systems. You see, artificial intelligence needs vast amounts of data free from both error and bias in order to function. It can oftentimes be inefficient and expensive to request this data from each individual, so data is usually collected in mass. This can be very problematic, however, since AI oftentimes collects more data than it actually uses, allowing it to have the power to de-anonymize that data, meaning individuals can often be identified. Unfortunately, this data is not always used to the benefit of society. For example, the government of China uses facial recognition data to enforce the rules of its dictatorship. Additionally, apps and tech companies often sell data to third-party companies, which then sell that data to even more companies and institutions, making it almost impossible to track where this personal data is getting passed. Beyond the ways data is collected, the use of said data in AI systems oftentimes does not achieve the goal of equity. A case in point is a study done by researchers from the University of California, Berkeley, where they identified racial bias in a prominent healthcare algorithm used by top health insurance companies within the US. Researchers found that the algorithm was more likely to identify Black patients with the same conditions as white patients as less likely to require high-risk care management just because African American patients were more likely to spend less money on healthcare. Clearly, the long-standing societal issue of unequal distribution of wealth among races was reflected within the algorithm, though the issue was not directly related to healthcare. This is just one example of many algorithms and systems setting a dangerous recurring pattern of bias in a time where our society is moving away from racism and other forms of discrimination. Even more concerning is that when experts in the field dare to stand up about the racial biases evident in artificial intelligence systems, they often get shut down. Just like Timnit Gebru, a prominent AI researcher who led a team at Google researching biases in artificial intelligence and technology, but was fired for publishing her research paper exposing the racial bias in a language processing AI system being used by Google. Now, this may sound bleak, and you may be wondering, can our data really be free of discrimination and privacy violations? Well, fortunately, artificial intelligence has the power to solve the very problems that it creates. Due to the mass amounts of data we collect, we are now able to, with the use of computers, generate synthetic data that can realistically replicate many human behaviors and be inclusive of different ethnicities and cultures. Using synthetic data can help reduce the risk of privacy violations when receiving data by providing a legal, risk-free method of receiving the data, as well as allowing data and AI to be more representative of different ethnicities and cultures, while also democratizing artificial intelligence by allowing smaller businesses to use the technology without having to pay the traditionally high price of average collecting consumer data. The use of synthetic data has already been proven to be a successful method. The company Affectiva, which develops systems that understand human emotions, is currently working on a project to identify human fatigue while driving. It had initially been paying thousands of drivers to drive for several hours while being recorded, and this was very inefficient and costly. So the company turned towards synthetic data for its needs. Not only did this shift cut down on costs, but it also allowed Effectiva to use data to represent a more ethnic and culturally diverse background of people, which helps prevent bias from forming in the algorithm. It is evident that synthetic data has great potential to reshape the second universe that is technology. If we continue to combine it with other methods to promote diversity and safety, we can help ensure that our digital universe leaves behind the discrimination and privacy violations that plague our physical one.